Hello, I'm JoyAnn Philip, and I'm going to share with you. I work with children, young children, and today I'm going to share with you about the exercises that help to build brain power. So, this is what Albert Einstein said. He said, having fun is the best way to learn. And that's what we must seek to do when we are working with children. We want them to learn, but we also want them to have fun. So, one of the first things that we can think about doing is playing games. And for games, why do we need to play games? It's not a waste of time, it's important. It helps them to follow instructions whilst having fun. It helps to build a right spirit of competition and also gives them a sense of a team. So they're working together for their team, they're not just working as individuals, and that is something that helps to develop them. It also, besides physical development and mental development, it's also an emotional development. They learn how to say, to be happy, even if they've lost a game. They learn how to rejoice with the team that has won the game. Now, when you're doing games, you can have just simple games in the classroom, or you can have games which are planned specifically to the topic that you're doing. We can have team games. We can just have, toys that we have in the classroom and say, for the first 5 minutes, maybe they can play with toys whilst they get themselves together. And we can also plan outdoor games, which is great fun for children if you have the space to do that. So here are pictures of some games. They don't have to be expensive things. You can just have with newspaper balls like we've done here, or you have a story picture and they're playing with different items on it, manipulatives. So games can just be simple or they can be elaborate. The next one I'm going to talk about is art and craft, which is really an important development for children. It helps to develop their fine motor skills when they're painting or drawing. It increases their creativity. The brain has got two parts, the left side and the right side. One is the academic side, and with the academic side is the music side also, and the other side develops creativity. So, right in the beginning, if we have art and craft as a part of our lesson, it's helping to increase that part of their brain. It reinforces learning. So they're coloring or they're painting or they're doing a craft which is based on the lesson, and they're going to remember it. They'll remember what they did if they made something like, a picture of Jonah and the whale, and you have a whole whale that they've made. They will remember that story a lot more because they have done a craft about it. And having messy activities, art and craft allows that to happen. And children actually love messy activities. So don't be afraid of having newspaper, splash of paint on it, glue, and all the things that go with craft. That really is something that children enjoy. The next one I'm going to talk about is music. Music helps children to learn. You can put anything to song, books of the Bible, different stories, Bible stories are put to song, and children can remember learning that. It's great for the auditory learner. The children who learn with hearing, that's something that is helping them. Again, it's fun, it's relaxing, and they're learning rhythm. They can learn rhymes, which again will help them to remember what they're learning. So with music, you can also have dance. The next one I'm going to talk about is experiments. And in experiments, again, it's real life and you're demonstrating, you're doing something which they're going to learn. It helps them to remember real life experience. You've done an experiment, but you're also helping them remember how it relates with real life. They're learning cause and effect. So suppose you mix two colors, you mix black and white, it becomes gray. So they're learning that if you mix sugar in water, it dissolves and it becomes a sugar drink. So when we are talking about the gospel, we've sometimes had blue water, and then you put a chemical inside it, and it becomes absolutely white. And we talk about how our life has been full of sin, But when Jesus comes and forgives us, our life can be white like that glass that they see. So experiments again is something that they will remember and they enjoy doing themselves with you. Story is another great way to help children remember. Now, when you're introducing a topic, don't just, if you're, suppose you're talking about the story of David and Goliath, you don't just come straight into the story. You might have a story, your own life experience, or a story of a real situation that happened, or maybe just a fun story of something that's outside of the Bible, which they can relate. There are many topics that children like. There are many like things like Avengers and all these different things. And you can use one of those stories to introduce the topic. You'll get their attention if you do that. Make it an interesting story, something that will inspire them. And when you're telling your own personal story, it helps to build a relationship with you and them. They love learning about you. They love learning about the mistakes you've made or the fears that you've had or the way you learned to interact with God when you were confused. Those are things that will help them to remember. You can at this stage even bring in some missionary story. Again, make it interesting and something that will impact them. Story helps them to want to read, because if they've listened to a story and you say you can read this story in so and so book, it's something that's going to help them to want to read, which is a great thing to have children learn to do. The next thing is nature. And in the Psalms, it talks so much about how God speaks to us through nature because He Himself has created nature. And children connect very easily with nature. They see it all around them. And there's so much to learn from plant life, animal life, and also to value nature. It's a good thing for them to remember that God gave us this world and asked us to take care of it. So even in learning about the growth of a plant, putting in a bowl with just cotton on it, seeds, you can have mung seed or rye seed, and then they water it. The next week it's growing a little bit, and then it keeps growing, and it's something that they can learn. You can use many lessons through nature. It really helps them to understand who our God is, how creative He is, that He has made every leaf different. Not a single leaf is the same. How He's made so many millions of varieties of ladybugs that we don't even see, but God's had fun making them. When you look at the flowers, you see the combination of colors, you see the detail, and yet these flowers are here today and gone in a few days. How much more God cares for us. So helping them get involved with nature is something that is a good thing. It's sustainable because nature is all around us and you can use that. These are different things that you can see people have done with nature, even just with petals and leaves, how they've done something on the different seasons, and children getting involved with animals, plants is a lovely thing for them. Then you have drama. Now, drama is making that story come alive to them. And that makes it real because you're getting them to participate. You'll get each child to be a different actor in that story, and they're going to remember particularly their part. It's again, we talked about auditory learners for music, visual learners for art and craft, kinesthetic learners, the children who love to move. For them, drama is a great way to get interested in what you're teaching them. And they grow in confidence because they learn to speak, come in front of the class, they're acting out something, and it's among friends that they know. It just gives them confidence in being able to communicate. Again, it's teamwork because they have to work together with their actors, the other actors in the story, in the drama, and it's building up a team spirit, which is a great thing because God wants us to work in community, and He created us not as individuals, but He created us in families, He created us in communities, and helping them relate, helping them work together in a fun way to relate with others really helps them. So we learn to work with people that we may not necessarily otherwise want to interact with, but in a drama, in a game, they are working together with different kinds of friends of theirs, different personalities, and you're building something for the future for them. Here you can see some of the drama that little children can get involved with. So after drama, the next one is rest and quiet. If your Sunday class is for a long time or you've taken them out, there are some times when they may need to just have just a little bit of rest. If they're getting very noisy and they get unruly, you need to maybe say, okay, all of you just 5 minutes of let's have some quiet and rest. And here they can either do something that you give them to do, or maybe just a quiet time because they need that. Children need that break in between. And you can have some little toys at the back. If they want, they can play with those, but do it silently so they're not disturbing the others. The next one is asking questions. Remember, it's important for them to remember what you are saying, for them to be to like engage in what you're talking. It helps to remember facts. You can have open-ended questions, particularly when we're talking about the Christian faith. There are so many questions that don't have a right or wrong answer. And you're giving them not just questions which are facts, but questions about asking them for their opinion or how does it relate to them, or what's the meaning of your understanding of being kind, what is your understanding of forgiveness, and you allow them to say what they think of it. Also, you're asking them questions where you're giving them a choice and saying, what would you do? Would you choose this or would you choose that? So it's not that they've all got to do exactly the same thing, but you're giving them the ability to choose things. And it also helps creative thinking when you're asking them questions because they have to think, what is the answer? It's really a good way to exercise the brain. The next one is manipulatives. Children that age really need to have manipulatives. That these objects that you have, again, could be very simple things, but it helps them to understand concepts. Again, it's a great way for kinesthetic learners who love to do things with their hands. You can have simple things like blocks, beans, leaves, stones, clay. All of this can be used to help them understand concepts. Here you can see children playing and the joy in them playing. The next one is alone time. Now, this is the time when you're asking them to assimilate what you have taught them, so what they've learned. They need to not just have lots of activity and then run away from the class, but time when they're sitting to think of what they've learned, to think of their own answers to some of the things, the questions you might have asked, and to understand, to see whether they have understood. So when you do give them like a worksheet to do or something to color, you have a choice of, is this child being sharing or is this child not sharing? Color the one where the children are sharing. It's giving them an alone time to understand your concept and to help to build that into their own way of thinking. It's a great thing for people who are shy, who don't like to do activity with teams all the time or activity with somebody else. It's a good time for them to have that time when they're thinking about it by themselves. You can have puzzles, worksheets, drawing, all of that helps with alone time or even just reading some books. The next one is brainstorming. Again, this is really a good exercise for the brain where you have group discussion. It helps them to listen to others. They in their own little group, they are trying to talk about something, asking questions, and they're also listening to others. So you could have one teacher or one leader in each group, and you can facilitate them talking about the topic, what you want them to discuss. They helps them to learn cooperation because they are listening to others. They've got to think, oh yes, this is the way it is, or somebody else says something and The leader may say, well, this is not exactly what we're talking about, because children tend to go off on a tangent, and you got to bring them back and say, no, we're talking about such and such topic, because they like to tell you about things that maybe they were playing with or they went out, and you're helping them brainstorm on the topic that you wanted them to talk about. The next one is explanation. This, I think, every teacher knows that they need to explain the lesson. The rule is you talk 40% of the time given to you, the children should be talking 60%. They should be doing activities, they should be interacting. That's the best way for them to learn. So it's not just the teacher talking most of the time in the class, like what I'm doing. That's not the best way to learn, but it should be interacting with them and they talk 60% of the time. Again, explanation is great for auditory learners. It helps to make eye contact. Keep looking at the children, keep drawing them back to look at you, and make it interesting. Use manipulatives, change your voice when you're telling something, a gruff voice, a soft voice, visual aids, all of that helps in the explanation of your main story or your main topic. The next one I'm going to talk to you about is show and tell, where the children bring something from their home to the school. So suppose say you've talked about something to do with a particular story, and there are different elements in that story. You can ask them the next week, because you're continuing that story, to bring one of those things. Suppose they've got, if we take the story of 5 loaves and 2 fish, you're saying next time you come with something which we're going to have a meal together, or we're going to celebrate eating together, and we're going to show how Jesus loved to feed people. It was important to do that. So they bring that item from home and then they talk about what they brought. Like that little boy had bread and fish. You bring your little item, but you're going to be able to share with your friends. And you tell us why you like this item. So it's a great thing to work with their parents to say, I've got to take something to school next Sunday, and I'm going to talk about this. Yeah. And that's something theirs, what they have brought from their home. It's their personal thing. So they'll enjoy talking about that. And then you learn from one another. Different children have brought different things, so they're learning from one another. These are things that you can see with show and tell. Then the other one is trips. Don't forget that children love going on trips. They may go with their parents to a park or to the vegetable shop or the fruit shop, but it's a powerful thing that you're talking to them. You could take them to the aquarium, you could take them to a mall where there are games to play, and children will really get connected like you can't do in a Sunday class. So this is something they'll remember, they love it, and they will enjoy having this outing. So in at Sunday school, at least 3 to 4 times in a year, try to take them for a trip with some parents coming along. But it's something that's going to build fun and build teamwork, and something that you're going to, which would be related to some of the topics that you're talking about. Maybe for that quarter, you're talking about something and you're taking them to some place which can reinforce that learning. But if it's just you're taking them to the playground, or you're taking them and you're learning to teach them to share, to be kind to one another, to learn how to not just be thinking about yourself, but thinking about others, then you can just take them to a place where they can have fun. These are different trips that children have gone out to. And don't forget to recap. That is really important. You started the lesson in the beginning, and recap is important. We said you can start the lesson with a story, something that warms them up, or a game, something that draws them into the lesson. At the end of the lesson, this is an important thing. Maybe they go through the memory verse, they go through the main core point that you were teaching them. So you start with the previous Sunday's lesson, and you should end with the recap of today's lesson. And that will help them to remember. Don't just do it in the same way every time asking questions. Maybe you can do it with a puzzle. You can blow the balloons and put some of the main core points written in the balloon, and they can pop the balloon and open it, and you can read it out to them if they're too small to read, but do the recap in a fun and interesting way. So that's it. Thank you. I hope it's been a blessing. God bless you.